Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Although it's very early for Christmas, it is definitely not early to start crafting for it. And ornaments are something that we really have to stock up on ahead of time. And today I'm going to concentrate on some that can very quickly and easily be made in bulk. Now for this one, this is going to be an icicle. And it will have a primitive look, very easy to make. You want something sturdy for the base, and I'm using some sturdy wire. This just happens to be rusted wire, and in my opinion, that's a little better, but it's not completely necessary at all. So you're going to take one strip of it, or one section of it, and I think this is maybe about 10 inches long, and then just bend the top to make a hook. And then you're going to start wrapping this all the way down, and the fabric that I'm using here is Warm and Natural. I'm going to be using it for the next few ornaments that we'll be doing. But it's just so easy to work with, very forgiving. It has a primitive look when you're finished. And so first I start out by wrapping the entire thing. And then, because I want this to have a little bit of thickness, but I want the thickness to be somewhat uneven. I want it to be thinner in the bottom so that it comes down in a point like an icicle. But then I want to kind of thicken up some of the rest of it. So I just start wrapping back toward the top. And this is completely up to you. This strip of Warm and Natural I've cut because you can't tear this kind at all. But I'm just going to keep wrapping. Now you don't have to use Warm and Natural. I guess you could use tea towel or something like that, but I like the thickness that comes with the Warm and Natural, and I like the look that it has when it's finished. So so just keep wrapping these until you get the thickness that you desire, and then you're just going to finish it off with a little bit of hot glue and secure it in place, and then you have your candy cane. But we're not going to stop here, or then you have your icicle. But again, we're not going to stop here. Now, because I want this to look more like ice, obviously it's not going to look exactly like ice. It's going to look like a primitive icicle, but I want to add some iridescent glitter to this just to give it more of a sparkly, glistening look, I guess. And so I'm just going to take some Mod Podge, or you could use just regular school glue, and brush it all over the icicle. And then I'll sprinkle the glitter over the top. Now, you could substitute this, and it would probably look more primitive if you substituted it with some type of coarse salt. And that would give it more of that look without having the glittery look that some people don't care for, but I think it really works with these. And then you just let this dry. Now you could add a hang tag to the top of this, or some sort of embellishment, but for me I just left them natural. But either way, I don't think you can get much easier than these. And they look really pretty hanging on the tree. Now, I'm still relying heavily on pulling some of my old projects out of my older videos because, again, with my injury, I have been able to get in and out of my craft room the way I would like to. I can get in there and I can somewhat move around, but it's really slowed me down to be able to get to some of the craft supplies that I need to get to. So I'll just, when I can do one, I will add it in, but a lot of these videos I'm going to have to rely on pulling these old projects from for some of these past projects. Now here I've just taken a wadded up piece of newspaper. You could also use a wadded up piece of aluminum foil or just about anything. And I'm taking these strips of the Warm and Natural and completely covering this to make a ball. So what this is going to be is a snowball. And you could add a hanger to this, or you could do what I'm going to do and use it as a bowl filler. So I just keep wrapping it. Every now and then add a dot of glue to help secure it, and until you get the whole thing completely wrapped. Now, I'm using a thicker strip here, but on some of mine, I cut mine thinner, and it works both ways. In my opinion, it works better to go just a little bit thinner than I have here. But then I'll secure this at the end with some hot glue. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this one that I did on the icicle, and I'm going to brush it with glue and sprinkle it with the iridescent glitter. Now here I'm showing you, I'm doing different size of these. This one's a little bit larger than the last one, and I just think they display well to have different sizes of snowballs. And these can be displayed in a wooden bowl or in a bucket. You could fill a bucket mostly with newspaper, and then put these on the top and make it look like the bucket was full of snowballs, and maybe finish the entire thing off with a hang tag of sorts and sell that as a whole. And again here, this could be, the iridescent glitter could be substituted with salt or something like that. Again, I don't think you could get much easier than these two projects. Another easy project, still using the Warm and Natural fabric. Now I get my Warm and Natural either on Amazon or at Walmart, and I guess I have a little bit harder time finding it at Walmart, but I'm going to include a link in the description for this particular fabric, because if you haven't tried working with it, I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised with how well it works on these projects. So I'm just going to completely wrap this candy cane, and I get my candy canes. I used to get them from the Dollar Tree, and I have a harder time finding them but I ordered them in bulk on Amazon, and I think they're a really good price for as many as comes in. I'm thinking maybe about 50 comes in a pack. But I will include that link in the description if you want to make some of these. Now for this one in particular, I think it works much better if you cut your strips a lot more narrow. So now I just finished that off by making sure I pinch that end closed. Now another way that you could finish the end off, and I've done that on a lot of these, and I've actually found that may even be the easier way, is just to cut a little piece of your fabric and glue it to the tip of both ends of the candy cane, and then kind of wrap the rest around the cane, just kind of push it up around it, and I'm going to show you here how I did that. So if you just glue it to the bottom and then just glue it securely on both sides and then start wrapping it, I think that works better. And then when you finish the bottom, before you get down to the bottom, you could always take a little piece of this and glue it to the bottom and then secure the rest of it around the candy cane and then wrap over the top of that. And I hope that makes sense, but for me, I've learned that it's just an easier way to cover that end. But you can always do what I did on the last one and just keep wrapping until you get to the bottom, and then just add some hot glue and kind of pinch that closed. But you don't want any of this plastic cane showing. Now this is just one of those, like all of the ones that I've done so far, that can be done more in an assembly line type fashion, and then you could just wrap each of these and then go back through and do your next step. So I just wrap a whole bunch of these usually, and then have a container full of these, and then I can do different things with them, and they work well to add them into different projects. It's just a really good addition to any project, especially the ones that you want a primitive look to. Now, one thing that's important when you're wrapping your stripe on these is that you start with a thin strip of fabric, and I just tear mine. I think it gives it a better look. And this is a fabric that is printed on one side. Now, obviously, it would work better if you had a fabric that was printed on both sides, but this definitely will work. You're just going to, when you glue that stripe on, you're just going to make sure that the good side is always out. And although I like the fabric that I'm using here, I wanted to give it more of a deeper red look. And so I'm taking my distress ink and really distressing this. And that will just give it a lot better look. Now, obviously, you're not limited to red. There's all kinds of colors in candy canes now. And I think even a light pink is pretty on these to use them in more shabby chic projects. But you're going to wrap these. Start at one end and start wrapping, and I'm sorry I got out of frame there, but you're just going to add a dab of hot glue and start wrapping them. And then you always want to make sure that when you wrap them, you keep your stripe at a slant, because if you look at a candy cane, that's how they are, and if you try to wrap them straight, it doesn't look good at all. So just always wrap at a slant, and then you're going to add another dot of glue at the end and cut that off. Again, I just make several of these, and so a lot of times I'll just make several of one color and several of another, and then they'll be ready to put into my other projects. Now, one of the things that I make with these is I take 2 candy canes and I face them outward like they were, and then I attach them in the center. You can attach them with hot glue and then tie them together. And then I'm just adding some greenery and a strip of fabric that I tie in a bow, or tie in a knot rather. And you can add other embellishments to this at this point. I'm just going to add a hang tag to mine, and I'm using jute twine to tie that on with. But you can make these as detailed as you want. Again, this one is just going to be very simple, and I'll add a hang tag to it, and then this will be finished. Now, another ornament that you can make with these is turn them toward each other and glue them together and make a heart. And then you can add whatever you want to add to your heart. And I'm going to make this one more shabby chic by gluing some lace behind it and then adding some ornaments embellishments. And then I just take a little strip of torn fabric and tie a knot in each end and glue them to both sides of the top. Another easy, quick ornament that you can do, and you can take this one just as far as you want, or you can get a little more elaborate. But I get these little wreaths from the Dollar Tree, and you can also order foam wreaths on Amazon, which I will include a link for. But you're going to cover this one with Warm and Natural also. Now, you could leave this fabric that's on it. Personally, I prefer the Warm and Natural, so I cover mine with that. So I'm just taking some strips and wrapping it just like I did in the other projects and completely cover it. Now, you can use Warm and Natural here, or with this one you could very easily use tea towel. Again, I just prefer the look of the Warm and Natural. And then I just cover the whole thing, and then you can just embellish this however you want. Now, I'm taking a little bit more time with this one, and I'm going to be adding some shabby roses to mine. And you can add bits of lace, you can add buttons and shabby bows, just whatever you want to add to these. Now you can also do this on a larger scale. And here I'm showing you exactly how I cover the ends of the candy canes. Now this is the large candy cane that you get from the Dollar Tree. Walmart also has these. And I'm just gluing it to the end of each side. And then I can start wrapping it, and I will have my ends covered. And because this one is so much larger than the other ones, you can work with larger or wider strips of the Warm and Natural. Again, this is one that could be done with another fabric. I just think that this benefits from the extra thickness that comes from the Warm and Natural. Now here I haven't coffee stained this Warm and Natural. And to do that, all you have to do is dip it in some strong coffee, wring it out, and then just hang it to dry. This particular one I'll use in a project that doesn't need to be coffee stained. And then we'll add the striping on this one just like we did with the other ones. And I think that here I'm using some gingham ribbon. I don't think this one is a torn fabric, but so you've got that option also. And again, this is very important that you're wrapping this at an angle. And if you run out just like I did there, then all you have to do is just piece it right over the top of that, and that's not a problem at all. Then you can add a hang tag to this and sell it by itself just to use in an arrangement, or you can do what I'm doing here. And this is just one limb from a discarded artificial Christmas tree. And I've cut the very top of it off, and you have to use bolt cutters for that. But now I'm just going to crisscross my candy canes and make a wall spray out of this. And I just wired that on, and you can use hot glue, or I'm using floral wire here, or you can use a pipe cleaner, just whatever you want to use, because you can hide it with your bow and your other embellishments. And you can add a hanger to this while you're attaching your candy canes, because I just wrapped it around the front and twisted it good, and then I twisted it in the back. Now I'm starting with a very long piece of wire, and now I'm going to twist these two wires together and then form them into a loop and wire that back to the long strand, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show that process here, but it's very easy to make a hanger this way. See, I put that in a loop then after I twisted it good, and then twisting it just made your wire stronger, because now you've got two wires twisted together, and then I formed it in a loop, and that just makes a very easy wall hanger. And then you can just add your other embellishments, and this will make a really pretty wall spray. So I took some coordinating ribbon and made a bow to go on this. And then I added some berries, and I added all that in with some hot glue. And you can add as much or as little to this as you want, but it's a very simple, quick, and very pretty wall hanging. Or I actually sold these to go on a door, and they make a really good door hanger. And after I added my bow, I took the little long pieces on the bottom and wired them in place where I wanted them to stay. Now when you're adding these larger picks, you have the option of adding some hot glue, and I went back and added a little underneath, but these stayed really well even without the hot glue. I did, however, add hot glue to the smaller pieces because they wouldn't have stayed as well. But I think this turned out to be a really pretty wall hanging, and I actually sold them as door wreaths or decor or whatever you want to call them, but they sold really well. And now I did this ornament in my very first video, and this one, although I'm making it from drop cloth here, I've since learned that it works really, or it actually turns out better if you use the Warm and Natural fabric. So you can definitely use the drop cloth or some other cotton fabric, but again, I feel like it works really well with the Warm and Natural. And I'm going to be painting this one, and if you were to use the Warm and Natural, you could either not coffee stain it and just leave it white, or you could coffee stain it and give it more of an aged look. But I'm going to be making 2 ornaments with this, and one is going to be a snowman, and the other is going to be a gingerbread man. And these will just be the face only, but they make really neat little ornaments. So you need some sort of template here to make your circles the size that you want them, and you're going to need 2 circles for each ornament. And you have the option of either hot gluing these, or you can sew them. You can sew them by hand, by machine, or hot gluing them. But hot gluing works just fine, so that's what I'm doing here. And I'm going to glue it all the way around, except I will leave a little opening so that I can stuff it. And then I'm going to stuff these with polyfill. And before I completely close this, I'm going to use make a little loop with jute twine and use that as the hanger, and I'll just glue that right inside the opening. And then I'll just stuff it with some polyfill. Now you don't want this to be tight. You just want to stuff it enough to where it looks right, and then you'll just close it with your hot glue. Now because I have used drop cloth here, I can fray the edges if I want. You obviously don't want to do that with the Warm and Natural fabric. But again, my favorite way to do these is with the Warm and Natural. Now I'm using the color Pine Cone mixed with some of the color Buttercream, and both of those are Dixie Belle colors. And I'm just going to paint the entire outside, front and back. And this one is going to be the gingerbread face. Now, when you're painting fabric, it works better if you add just a little bit of water, which is what I did here. And then once everything is completely dry and both sides are painted, then you're just going to paint your face on. And I'm just going to let you watch me paint these. They're very, very simple, but I feel like it helps to watch rather than talk through this one. And once your fabric is dry, you're just going to make a simple little bow by folding a piece of torn fabric and tying it with some jute twine. And then you can either attach that to the side of the top or the top of the top for a girl, or you can make a little bow tie with it for the boys. Now for the snowman head, I'm just going to paint this white. And I don't worry about complete full coverage on this because I'm okay with some of that drop cloth showing through. I just like that look. Or you could paint it solid, and once it's dry, you could use some distress ink and antique it that way. But I'm just going to paint this whole thing front and back in the color cotton and then let that dry. And then I'll just paint a simple snowman face, and you can paint all different kinds of snowman faces to give these more character and personality. You can actually do the same thing with the gingerbread faces. If you look up snowman faces, I did on Pinterest, you'll find all kinds of ideas or gingerbread faces. So just have fun with the faces and just give them different expressions so that each of them will be unique. And I think adding these little highlights on the eyes and the nose makes this little face come alive. Then for this one, I'm just going to make a little shabby bow with some strips of torn fabric to add to the top. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.